Hello, everybody. This is Sunday. It's February 27th, and we are headed into week 8 of our online astronomy course. I have a little bit of space news to start out with, and you might remember that the James Webb Telescope has reached its final destination. It's in orbit at a stable point far beyond the moon, and it opened its mirrors up. It received light from its mirrors for the first time, and last week it was, I think, or the week before, I showed you these 18 points of light just scattered around. Well, things have improved since then. The mirrors have started to be aligned, and let me show you what we have right now. You can see here's what we had from the 18 mirrors. And now those images have been sharpened up. And then the mirrors were pivoted slightly to bring those 18 images to a common focus. And that gives us what we see right here. And if you look closely, you can see little black rings in this. Those are called diffraction rings. And this shows that we already have a great image. And it's going to get even better as more alignment to those mirrors is done. So the James Webb Space Telescope is really on its way to being an extraordinary instrument for investigating all sorts of things, for looking inside clouds of gas and dust that are forming stars, for looking at objects in the very early universe. So this is just going to be fantastic. Now, I want to take a look ahead, just looking at the schedule that's coming up, because this coming week we'll be doing module 8, and then the week after that is spring break. So March 7th through 11th is your spring break. So we won't be doing anything that week. And the week after that, starting on March 14th, is your second exam. You can take that from Monday, March 14th, all the way through Sunday, March 21st. So that's what's coming. But this coming week, we are going to be looking at the Jovian planets. The Jovian planets are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. You can see Saturn here behind me over my shoulder. And this is really an amazing picture, because what you're seeing here is, the sun is over here off to the left side of the screen, and sunlight is coming in and hitting Saturn. And then there's a shadow of Saturn on the rings that's going out this way. And in fact, if I move a little bit to the side, you can see that shadow perhaps a little bit more clearly right here. This image is also cool because it shows you how thin Saturn's rings are. If you take a look here over my shoulder, you can see that you can actually look through Saturn's rings and see the planet Saturn beyond them. So they are very, very thin indeed, as you'll be finding out. You'll be finding about the Jovian gas giants. The Jovian planets are large. They're gaseous. They're not very dense. They're only about as dense as water is. And that's in contrast to the terrestrial planets, the Earth-like planets that are small and rocky and much more dense: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Another difference is that the Jovian planets have a huge number of moons, 70 or 80 moons for Jupiter and Saturn, and more than 10 for Uranus and Neptune. Whereas the terrestrial planets, Mercury doesn't have a moon, Venus doesn't have a moon, Earth has 1 moon, and Mars has 2 moons, and those are most likely captured asteroids. So a big difference between the gas giants, the Jovian planets, and the inner planets that are much closer to the sun. Now, in addition to that, you're going to be learning about objects that are beyond Neptune. These are the trans-Neptunian objects. And we know about a lot of these. And two of the most famous that you may have heard of are Pluto and Ceres. Ceres is an asteroid. It's the largest asteroid. It was the first to be discovered. And Ceres actually is not a trans-Neptunian object because it's not out past Neptune. But both Pluto and Ceres are dwarf planets. So Pluto is a dwarf planet and a trans-Neptunian object. There are others. Sedna is way out there beyond the orbit of Neptune. And that's really why Pluto was demoted from being a planet, because it just doesn't follow the orbital pattern of the other planets. You know, the other planets go in a nice orbital plane around the sun. They all move around the sun in the same orbital plane, whereas Pluto orbits quite a bit out of that plane. And Pluto has much more in common with these other trans-Neptunian planets than it does with the Jovian or the terrestrial planets. And that's why Pluto lost its status as a planet, but it is the first of the trans-Neptunian objects that we found out about, and the first of the dwarf planets. So it is still distinguished, don't worry about that. Also, we'll be finding out about other members of our solar system. We'll be finding out about asteroids, these huge chunks of rock that are orbiting the sun, mostly between Mars and Jupiter, but some are in other places as well. And we have actually sent sample missions. Both Japan and the United States have sent sample missions to these asteroids. Those robotic spacecraft have landed on the asteroids, taken samples, and returned to Earth. In addition to that, there are comets, beautiful comets, that sometimes light up our skies. These are just frozen balls of water and dust. And when it comes so close to the sun that ice and dust sublimates, turns into a gaseous form, and leaves this beautiful tail behind the comet. And finally, we'll talk about meteoroids. Now, meteoroids commonly are the result of asteroid collisions. Asteroids collide, pieces fly off, and those also orbit the sun. So through collisions, you get smaller and smaller pieces. And sometimes large chunks of those come in through Earth's atmosphere. And they can cause havoc if they're too large. One about 63 million years ago or so impacted around the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico and created such devastation that it kicked up a huge cloud of gas and dust and smoke from all the worldwide fires that were set, that it caused the dinosaurs to go extinct. So they can have huge effects, but also when Earth passes through the tail of a comet, a lot of little pieces come in through Earth's atmosphere. And as they come in through Earth's atmosphere, they heat up and they glow brightly, and those are meteors. And if one survives to hit the ground, that's called a meteorite. So meteoroids are the big chunks of rock that are out there in space. If they come in through Earth's atmosphere, they heat up, they glow, they leave a trail called a meteor, and when they hit the ground, they're called a meteorite. So I hope you enjoy learning about all of these members of our own solar system. Finally, let me take a quick look at Stellarium here. So I'm going to pull up Stellarium. And usually when I pull up Stellarium, it's an evening picture, but this is at noon. So this is at noon on the 2nd of March, that's Wednesday. And here's the sun. We're looking south. It's noontime on the 2nd. And you can see this little dot right here, and that is the moon. The 2nd is the new moon phase. And you can see the moon is actually a little bit below the sun. And that's why we don't have a solar eclipse every month, because usually the moon passes either below or above the sun. It takes a special alignment for the moon to pass in front of the sun and to block out the sun's light. Now, let me go a few more days into the future. So let's go from the 2nd on Wednesday to the 3rd. And now we've lost track of the moon. In fact, it's right there. There's a little tiny speck, but you can hardly see it. Now we'll go to the 4th. And by the way, do not go out and try to see the moon near the sun. You'll damage your eyes. But you can see it on the 4th, because here's the moon. It's just east of the sun. And so if I advance the time a little bit, here's noontime, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me swing the screen a little bit to the west here. We're at 4 p.m., 5, 6. The sun has set, and here is the moon, seen soon after sunset. And this is really cool to see. This is such a beautiful sight because it's just 2 days after the new moon. And if I zoom in on the moon, you can see it's just this little crescent. And these little crescent moons are just so pretty to see. So go out around 6 in the evening and take a look at this crescent moon soon after sunset. So I hope you do enjoy learning about the Jovian planets. Week after that is going to be spring break, so I hope you have a wonderful spring break. Whatever you're doing, be safe while you're doing it, but enjoy your spring break. And then the week after that, we'll come back. We'll be heading, starting on the 14th, we'll be heading into Module 9, which is finally, we're going to be talking about stars. And you'll be taking your second exam. As always, if you have any questions, just contact me through email, through discussions. I'll be happy to set up a Zoom meeting with you, or we can get together in my office. So have a great week. Enjoy your spring break, and I will see you after that. So until then, I'll say bye-bye.